If you have survived a round of redundancies, you know the feeling is not good. That feeling of fear, that feeling of being on the edge, it's not a good feeling at all. It causes a sense of stress in your life, not just at work, but also personally. And while you may be breathing that sigh of relief, just look around. What observations did you make? Did you actually notice a protected bunch of people? Or were there surprises where you never expected those roles to be made redundant? So, in this video, I'm going to talk about 7 warning signs or 7 signals that you need to be aware of so that you can protect yourself.
Welcome to the Procurement Signal, the place for curious supply chain professionals ready to develop. Every week, we dive straight into how modern teams are transforming supplier relationships, elevating vendor management, tackling risk, and driving real sustainability impact. If you are ready to move out of a back-office function and into a strategic powerhouse, you are in the right place. This is your signal. Amplify what you can be. The illusion of job security.
We choose employment because it feels secure, especially after you've just finished college or university. It seems like the next step to do. However, as the years go by, you build your experience in your career, and being an employee feels very secure. It's very stable. However, the brutal reality is there is nothing secure about a setup where someone else gets to decide whether you can pay your rent or mortgage the next day. If you read the fine print of your employment contract, you'll realize it exists to protect your employer, not you. No matter how many years you spend at the organization being loyal, attending work barbecues, or Friday night drinks, you are an expense on the balance sheet. When economic headwinds blow, businesses will protect their cash flow and their shareholders' interest, not your loyalty.
Number 1, the shelf life of skills and roles.
I wonder how many people view their roles in terms of having a shelf life. So by this I mean the skills that got you hired 3 years ago in your current job might have shifted in their shelf life. With rapid technology advancements, if you aren't upskilling on your own, your value to the organization or the role that you're in will depreciate over time. Here's an example. Mark is an Excel wizard. He started as a data analyst. His job was to collect data from different sources in the business, compile it, and build dashboards to provide updates to management. Mark's role in the current environment is very essential. But over a few years, the business quietly updated their tech stack. They migrated the reporting process to cloud-based data warehouses and automated with business intelligence tools like Power BI. With this uplift, Mark's Excel data gathering skills were no longer required. Now, Mark had the choice to be part of the uplift, but he was too comfortable working with Excel and working in the status quo. So, when the next round of redundancies came, or restructuring, Mark's role was no longer required.
Number 2, new boss, new rules.
Sometimes people are very comfortable with who they report to. They've probably built a safety net with their current boss. So, when your manager decides to move on, either for an external opportunity or maybe they get promoted, you will have a new line manager. And this one will have their own agenda to prove their worth. Just be mindful, you may not be part of it. For example, Sally has built a great relationship with her line manager and worked with her over a number of years. Now, Sally's boss decides to leave for an external opportunity. Her new manager, who was an external candidate, is data driven, rigid over metrics, and micromanages everything Sally has done or is currently doing. So, suddenly, Sally's performance reviews have gone from being a star performer from the previous manager to someone who needs to go on a performance review plan from her current manager. And all of this because of a change in manager.
Number 3. Sunset decisions.
Organizations need to constantly adapt or get left behind. So, businesses must evolve their service models. This includes product lines or service offerings, pretty much anything the company sells to make revenue. If a company decides to sunset a production line or pivot their entire service offering, entire teams of highly skilled people and dedicated workers, their roles will be eliminated instantly, simply because their roles are linked to something that the company has decided to let go. Imagine an entire software engineering team that's supporting on premise software or infrastructure. Now, the board decides to move 100% of this to a cloud based SaaS model. So, even if those engineers have flawless performance reviews and are highly skilled, the company will liquidate that entire department just because the legacy product is being retired.
Number 4. The outsourcing model.
Thanks to modern remote infrastructure, companies are no longer restricted to local talent pools. So you're not just competing with the person in the next cubicle or in your city. You're competing with highly qualified professionals across the globe who are willing to do your job for a fraction of the cost. Call centers were easily the first wave of outsourcing. However, over the years, suppliers have developed staff augmentation services and managed services for professional and highly skilled roles. Some of these services include IT, software engineering, finance, accounting, digital marketing, creative production, technical administration, and customer support services.
Number 5. The high performance trap.
Being great at your job gives you a temporary safety net, but high performance leads to promotion, and promotions mean a higher salary. During aggressive corporate downsizing, high salaried veterans are often targeted because cutting one senior salary saves the organization more money than cutting a couple or a few entry level roles. Consider this example. So, a senior sales director is earning 160,000 and he has smashed sales targets for a number of years. Now, when there is a budget crunch, leadership decides to lay off the role of the director and they incentivize two junior sales managers, upcoming junior sales managers who are hungry to perform. They incentivize them with a bonus structure, which effectively means they've got two people now doing that job and they've reduced the cost because they no longer have to pay that full-time $160,000 salary.
Number 6. Mergers and acquisitions.
If your company has been acquired by another organization or your function has been merged with another function, perhaps in a different region, there is good reason to be a little bit concerned. Now, the buzzword that is used by most organizations here is synergy. We want to synergize or we want to get better by combining our efforts. When these mergers or acquisitions happen, it's probably a good idea to do a little bit of a stock take. So, do a stock take in terms of What are the other roles that are duplicated by the acquisition or the merger? What is the acquiring company after? What do they have? Do they already have their own infrastructure? Do they already have their own teams? Do they already have a commercialization model where they're just interested in the small business's IP rather than getting all their roles and responsibilities? Sometimes businesses get acquired to kill off the competition. So if you are a smaller business that's been acquired by a bigger competitor, the bigger competitor is likely going to look at a duplication of functions. For instance, human resources. The bigger organization would want to protect their own functions and people. And so, if you are in human resources in the smaller organization, you probably would be a target. And the same thing goes for any other functions, departments that are duplicated, that are not very IP or content specific. So maybe at the first instance, the sales and marketing team of the smaller business that has got good in depth knowledge of continuing with sales might be kept for a bit until the larger organization gets attuned with all the products and services of the small organization.
Number 7, AI and technology automation.
You've probably heard that AI is going to take over all our jobs. However, technology automation has been around for a number of years. And at a most basic concept, it's all about automating workflows, automating business processes. So typically, in small organizations, you would have people doing fairly administrative work, which is passing a line of responsibility from one function to another. But as your processes get mature, as the organization gets mature, the organization would be looking to automate things. One good example here is change management. So if your role has been involved in as a paper pusher, right? So you've been somebody that goes around different functions collecting signatures to approve a change. Well, we have DocuSign or we have similar software tools where that role is no longer required.
What can I do to mitigate the risk of job loss?
So the 7 signals that I shared with you might appear that everything is bad, there is doom and gloom everywhere, and nobody's jobs are safe. And that's not the intent of this video. So, about 20 years ago, corporate life was very different. People would stay in the same organization for 20, maybe 30 years, and they would get rewarded. Job security was a thing. In today's world, things are more dynamic. Nothing stays stagnant. And so, what I want to share with you is 3 tips that you should always have to make sure that you are getting the best from your employment. So, the first tip I want to share with you is do not internalize corporate loyalty. Treat your employment as a mutually beneficial business for you and for your organization. It is not a family contract. You've probably heard of the phrase that you cannot change your family, and that's true, but you can change your employment. Just do it on your terms. Tip number 2, own your development and own your career. It is completely your responsibility to look for what are the jobs that are in demand, what are the skills for the future. And it's also a good idea to keep looking for opportunities within your organization to move into and to grow. One of the best ways to have career shifts or career changes are within the same organization. And so, while sticking in the same role for a long period of time may not be a good idea, but moving around the organization shows management that you are multi-talented, that you have a broader set of skills that the organization can use. And that is a good thing. And tip number 3 is always maintain your financial runway. And what I mean by that is a financial safety net. So if the worst does happen where you lose your job, you are not in a desperate situation to find the next one and you just want to jump into the same gig. A redundancy might actually give you the opportunity to sit back and think, what do I really want to do? And where do you want to go?
Thanks for tuning in to The Signal. Visit www.procurementsignal.com for more information. Check out our other videos on our YouTube channel.